My name is Elwood Granger, and I'm 67 years old. I was a welder for 42 years before I retired. Burned hands, sore back. Early mornings, I gave it all. For my family. For love. For legacy. I never went to college, but I made sure my daughter did. Her name is Cora, and she's the best thing I ever did right in this life. I live alone now, in a modest one-bedroom apartment in Marion, Indiana, not too far from where Cora and her husband, Dean, bought their big house with the granite counters and open floor plan. The kind of place you see in magazines. They used to invite me over for Sunday dinners every other week. That Sunday, it was roast chicken. Dean always carved the bird like he was born to do it. Sleeves rolled up, talking loud like men do when they think they're the kings of their castle. My grandson, Owen, sat next to me, elbows on the table like he knew he wasn't supposed to. I didn't correct him. He's 12. Let him be. I had just finished saying grace when my phone vibrated in my pocket. I wouldn't normally answer a call during dinner. It's rude. But this one buzzed 3 times in a row. Urgent. And then came the 4th ring. Dean was pouring himself another glass of that fancy dry red wine when I finally pulled the phone from my flannel shirt pocket. I excused myself quietly, looked down at the screen, and saw it was a restricted number. I hesitated. Something in my gut told me this wasn't spam. I pressed the green button and whispered, "Hello." A voice came through. Calm. Female. Almost like a whisper. "Mr. Granger, get up right now. Don't say anything. Just walk out the front door. Don't tell your daughter. Don't tell your son-in-law. Go now. Please." I blinked. "Who is this?" I asked, standing up slowly, heart hammering. She didn't answer the question. "They're planning something. You don't have much time. Grab your jacket. Go." Then the call ended. I stood there, phone still in my hand, heart beating like a drum in a thunderstorm. Dean looked over. "Everything okay, Pops?" he asked with that too smooth smile, the one that never quite reached his eyes. Cora was already slicing into her baked potato. "Dad, sit down. Your plate's getting cold." I smiled faintly. "Just a quick restroom break," I said, trying to keep my voice even. I walked toward the hallway, but instead of turning into the guest bathroom, I made a quiet left turn, grabbed my coat off the wall hook by the front door, and eased it open. Cold wind slapped me in the face. I stepped outside and shut the door behind me as gently as I could. The laughter from the dining room still rang in my ears. I made it to the end of the driveway before I realized I had no plan. Just that voice in my ear, that warning. Who would call me like that? Why would they say not to tell Cora? I stood there under the dim street lamp, the night stretching out in front of me like an unmarked road. Something was wrong, terribly wrong, and I had no idea what it was. And then my phone buzzed again. Same number. I answered it with a shaking hand. The same woman. "Good. You listened. Now walk. Don't turn around. Don't go back inside. Go 2 blocks down to the CVS on 5th. Someone will meet you there." And Elwood, yes. "If you love your daughter, don't trust the man she married." Click. I stood still for a moment, and then I started walking. I wasn't always this cautious. I wasn't always second-guessing people or feeling like a stranger in my own story. There was a time I believed that love, real love, was enough to protect you. I thought that if you gave your all to your family, worked hard, showed up, stayed faithful, kept your promises, the world would give you back something good. That's how I lived my life. I met Cora's mother, Joanne, when I was 21. She had a crooked smile and wild hair she never brushed. She worked the cash register at the gas station where I filled up my old pickup every Friday. She said I had honest hands, whatever that meant. I fell in love with her laugh before I ever kissed her. We had Cora 2 years later. I built a crib myself. I was still working nights at the steel plant then, 16-hour shifts, welding until my fingers blistered. Joanne stayed home, made casseroles, taught Cora to read by the time she was 4. We were good together, solid, until cancer came and ripped it all apart. Joanne passed when Cora was just 9. Liver cancer. Took her fast. Too fast. 1 minute she was dancing barefoot in the kitchen. The next she was skin and bones in silence. I remember holding Cora's tiny hand at the funeral, swearing to her that I would never let anything happen to her. That I'd be both mom and dad. That I'd never leave. And I didn't. I didn't remarry. I didn't even date. I worked. I cooked. I braided her hair, even when my fingers fumbled. I was at every parent-teacher night, every softball game. When she got into college, I cried alone in the parking lot after dropping her off. Purdue, engineering, smart as her mama. And when she brought Dean home for the first time, I tried real hard to keep an open mind. He was tall, too smooth, and too polished. Slick back hair, expensive shoes, one of those voices that sounded like a radio host, practiced and pleasant. He called me sir too many times and complimented my lasagna like he was auditioning for something. But I figured, maybe that's just how the world is now. These modern men, with their soft hands and perfect teeth. Who was I to judge? He made Cora happy. At least I thought he did. They married within a year. Big church wedding. She wore my late wife's necklace, and I walked her down the aisle with shaking knees. I remember hugging Dean afterward and saying, "You take care of her. She's all I've got." And he smiled and said, "Yes, sir. I know. That was over 15 years ago." At first, things seemed fine. Dean had a good job in tech, and Cora worked in environmental consulting. They bought a house in the suburbs. Had a baby, little Owen. I thought life had finally given me back something good. But over the years, I started noticing things. Subtle things. Dean would cut me off in conversations. Make little jokes about boomers and old-fashioned thinking. He'd talk over me at the dinner table, like my stories were just background noise. He never offered to help me fix the leaky pipes in my apartment, even though I mentioned them 3 times. When I asked if I could come over for Owen's birthday one year, he said, "We're doing something just us 3 this time. Hope you understand." I always did. I always forgave. But the distance between me and my daughter grew. Like she was moving further away, emotionally, even though she lived 15 minutes down the road. I started seeing less of Owen, less of Cora. I chalked it up to life. People get busy. Kids grow. Time moves. But now, as I walked toward the CVS on 5th in the cold Indiana night, I was starting to believe something much darker. The woman on the phone, whoever she was, knew something. Something about Dean. Something I hadn't wanted to see. As I turned the corner and saw the glowing red letters of the CVS sign, I slowed down. I didn't know what I expected. A car, maybe. A shadowy figure in a hoodie. But instead, there was just a short woman in a long tan coat standing near the entrance, holding a paper coffee cup. She looked about 40. Sharp eyes, like someone who'd seen too much. "Mr. Granger?" she asked as I approached. I nodded. "Yeah, you the one who called me." She gave a quick glance behind me, then motioned toward the bench beside the storefront. "Sit down. We don't have long." I sat. She didn't. "My name is Dana," she said. "I used to work in financial fraud investigations. Retired now, but a friend of mine flagged something. An account. Your name was attached." I blinked. "My account?" "No," she said. "An account in your name. One you didn't open." I didn't say anything, just stared. I started digging. "I have a contact in your bank. There have been large transfers, weekly, for over a year. Money going into this account, then funneled into offshore wallets. Whoever's doing it is good. Real good." I shook my head. I don't have that kind of money." She finally sat beside me. "That's the thing. Someone used your social. Your name. They faked documents. They used your retirement and pension funds as leverage. It looks like you co-signed something. You didn't, but it looks that way." My stomach turned. "I think your son-in-law is laundering money using your identity. And from what I've seen, it's starting to fall apart. That's why you got the call. That's why I called you. You need to disappear for now, until we can prove it." I rubbed my hands together, trying to stay warm, trying to make sense of it all. Why would he do that? Why me? Dana gave me a sad look. "Because you're easy to overlook. A quiet old man with no enemies. No one would think twice. And when it all collapses, the name on the account takes the fall. Not the guy holding the strings." I stared at the pavement. My daughter's face flashed in my mind. Her laugh. Her high school graduation. The time she fell off her bike and I carried her home on my shoulders. I whispered, "Does Cora know?" Dana hesitated. "I don't think she does. But she might suspect something. Or maybe she's been kept in the dark. Or maybe," I muttered bitterly, "she's part of it." "No," Dana said firmly. "Don't go there. Not yet. Don't give up on her. But you do need to stay quiet. You can't go home. Dean's watching your accounts. Your phone. Probably even your apartment." "What do I do?" I asked, the words tasting like panic. She reached into her coat pocket and handed me a prepaid phone and an envelope. There's a key in there. Locker 403 at the downtown bus station. Inside is some cash, a burner ID, and a place you can lay low for a few days. I'll be in touch. I looked at her, searching her face for any sign of deceit. But she just looked tired, like someone who'd been trying to fix things for too long. You're doing the right thing, she said as she stood. This isn't about revenge. It's about survival. She walked away without another word, disappearing into the night like smoke. And I sat there on that cold bench, envelope in hand, heart broken in ways I didn't know it could break. My son-in-law, the man I once called son, the man I once trusted with everything. I just lit the match that burned it all down. The bus station downtown was old, one of those places that still carried the scent of diesel and stale coffee from the 1970s. The kind of place where the walls felt like they were holding secrets of the thousands of people who had passed through. I walked past a young woman sleeping on a bench with her backpack as a pillow, a janitor mopping the floor, and a man in a hoodie hunched over a vending machine that wouldn't take his dollar. I felt like I didn't belong there. I had a good life once. I had a name, a reputation. People in Marion used to call me Mr. Granger with a kind of respect, like I was solid, trustworthy. Now here I was, walking into a dimly lit terminal like a fugitive. Locker 403. Dana said that was where everything I needed would be. I scanned the rows of battered gray lockers until I found it near the back corner. My fingers trembled as I pulled the small key from the envelope she'd given me. It clicked. Inside, I found a plain duffel bag, gray, no markings. I set it down on a bench and unzipped it. First, there was cash. Lots of it. Neatly bundled stacks of 20s and 50s. My stomach dropped. I wasn't used to holding this much money. There must have been at least $5,000, maybe more. Beneath the cash was a fake ID with a name I didn't recognize, Frank Collier. The picture was me, but the details were all wrong. A second prepaid phone, a black notebook, and at the very bottom, a letter folded neatly and marked only with the words, "Read this alone." I grabbed the duffel and walked outside into the chilly air, finding a quiet bench tucked behind the terminal. The streetlights buzzed softly above. I opened the letter. "Elwood, if you're reading this, it means you made it out. Good. I'm sorry to throw you into this mess, but I couldn't sit back anymore. Dean isn't just stealing money. He's part of something bigger. He's been laundering funds through shell corporations that are tied to multiple accounts, including your pension and a fake property deed signed in your name. You didn't just co-sign a fake loan. You own a property in Nevada that's being used to transfer illegal funds. On paper, you're liable. If this explodes before we can prove his involvement, you'll take the fall. You'll be the scapegoat, and Dean walks free. You have two choices. Go to the police. Risk everything. But with no evidence and Dean's connections, they'll eat you alive. Stay hidden. Let me work the case from the outside. Watch. Listen. Let me feed you what you need when the time comes. I need a few days, maybe a week. Then I'll have enough to clear your name and expose Dean. Until then, don't go home. Don't call anyone, not even Cora, especially not Cora. I'll contact you through the burner phone. Trust me, Dana, my hands were shaking. A fake property, a loan I never signed, my name being used as a pawn in a game I didn't even know I was playing. And the worst part, the part that made my chest hurt, was the line, especially not Cora. My Cora, my girl, the one I carried to bed when she fell asleep in the car. The one who used to bring me peanut butter crackers on my night shifts. The one who used to sit on my lap during thunderstorms, whispering, "You'll protect me, won't you, Daddy?" Was she still that girl? Or had Dean turned her into someone I didn't recognize? I shoved the letter into my coat pocket and sat in silence, watching a pigeon limp across the sidewalk. People came and went from the terminal behind me, but it felt like I was invisible now, just a ghost in my own life. That night, I didn't sleep. I took a cab to a cheap roadside motel on the edge of town using cash from the duffel. Checked in under the name Frank Collier. The woman behind the counter didn't even look up from her tabloid magazine. Room 17. Faint smell of bleach and mold, but it was a roof. I laid on the creaky bed staring at the ceiling. The next few days passed in a blur. I didn't turn on the TV. I didn't read the newspaper. I just stared out the window and thought. I thought about how Dean used to call me dad in front of people, how he gave me a mug one Father's Day that said best father-in-law ever, how I once loaned him $5,000 when his startup flopped and told him to forget about paying me back. I thought about the way Cora had started asking weird questions a year ago. Questions like, Dad, do you remember signing anything for Dean's business? A few years back, I had laughed it off. Of course not. He'd never asked me to do that. Except maybe he had. Maybe he didn't ask. Maybe he forged. And maybe Cora knew more than I wanted to believe. On the fourth night, the burner phone buzzed. One new message. From D. Go to 114 Harbor Street. Ask for Greta. She knows where the files are. Don't talk to anyone else. I memorized the address and destroyed the phone, just like Dana instructed. Flushed the SIM, crushed the device under my boot. Then I packed my things and hailed another cab. 114 Harbor Street was a tiny house at the end of a dead-end street. Paint peeling off the sides. A wind chime jingled on the porch as I stepped up to the door. An older woman, maybe in her 60s, opened it before I even knocked. You Elwood? She asked, squinting. Yeah. She motioned me inside quickly and shut the door. Dana said you'd be coming. I used to work in records at City Hall, before Dean's buddies pushed me into early retirement. Her living room was filled with boxes, file folders, and two barking chihuahuas behind a baby gate. Your son-in-law is dirtier than a pig in a sandbox, she said, flipping open a folder. Fake properties, fake shell companies, and at least 3 off-the-books account transfers under your social security number. They've got your name tied to a foundation that doesn't exist. He's been using you for years. I stared at the paperwork. It looked like a foreign language to me. Legal terms, numbers, banks I'd never heard of. You'll need all this, she said, gathering folders into a plastic bin. But be careful. Once they realize you're onto them, they'll come for you. Dean's not just greedy. He's dangerous. And if your daughter's still loyal to him, you're running out of time. I took the bin, heart pounding. So what do I do? Greta looked me in the eye. You fight back. That night, I stayed at a different motel. I laid the documents across the bed and began reading, highlighting, making notes, trying to understand the trap they had built around me. And somewhere between the account numbers and bank statements, I found it. Name, Cora Granger-Wells, co-signer, on a business loan for a company tied to one of Dean's shell operations. Dated 7 months ago. My breath caught in my throat. Not 7 years ago. Not an old mistake. 7 months. She signed it. She knew. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the corner of the motel room, lights off, blinds drawn, with a stack of documents spread out like a battlefield before me. The name Cora Granger-Wells stared back at me from the business loan form like it was shouting. I kept hoping I misread it, that it was another Cora, a clerical mistake. But there was her full signature. In her handwriting, even the way she looped her GS, exactly how she used to sign her school permission slips when she forged my name as a teenager. I'd laughed then. I wasn't laughing now. 7 months ago, she co-signed a business loan that backed one of Dean's fake shell companies. That meant she was involved, willingly. The daughter I raised. The daughter I sacrificed for. She wasn't in the dark like Dana hoped. She was in it. I felt something crack deep inside my chest. Not a loud snap, just a slow, quiet break. The kind you don't feel until it's already done. I kept hearing her voice in my head. Dad, can you help Owen with his homework? Dad, you'll come for Thanksgiving, right? Dean's under a lot of pressure at work. Be patient with him. Was she just playing me all this time? Was I that easy to fool? The next morning, Dana texted me from a new number. We're almost there. One more piece. Don't do anything rash. Too late. I'd already decided. I wasn't going to wait around anymore, hiding in shadows like a coward. I was going to look my daughter in the eyes and ask her what the hell happened to us. I didn't go to the house in Marion. That would be stupid. Too risky. Dee might have already realized I was gone and cleaned up the mess. So I did the only thing I could think of. I waited for Cora outside her office building. She worked downtown in one of those new eco-modern glass buildings that looked like someone stacked Legos wrong. I knew her schedule well enough to know when she came out for her afternoon coffee break. She was a creature of habit. I stood by the corner near the cafe she liked, wearing a ball cap and an old brown coat. Most people didn't give me a second glance. To the world, I was just another tired old man waiting for a bus. And then she appeared. Cora, my baby girl, hair tied back, laser sharp, talking on her phone with that confident, clipped voice she always used when she was trying to sound important. She didn't see me at first. I let her pass, then said quietly, Cora. She froze, turned around slowly. Her face went pale. Dad, she whispered. Where are you? Where have you been? I think you know. Her eyes darted around. She stepped closer and lowered her voice. You can't be here. If Dean sees you, then I guess Dean will have to explain a few things, I said. She looked like she'd been slapped. You don't understand what's going on. I pulled the folded copy of the co-signed document from my pocket and handed it to her. She didn't take it. You signed this, I said, 7 months ago, on a business loan, a shell company, one of Dean's. She swallowed hard. Was it your idea, Cora? I asked. Or did he talk you into it? Did he promise you a better life? A new house? Was that kitchen remodel worth my retirement? Dad, she said softly, it's not what you think. Then explain it to me. I snapped. Help me understand how the daughter I raised, alone, signed her name to a scam that could have landed me in prison. How you used the man who tucked you into bed every night after your mama died. How you helped him make me the fall guy. Tears welled in her eyes. But I didn't feel sorry. You think I wanted this? She whispered. Dean got in over his head. The money. He said it was temporary. He said it was just paperwork, and no one would ever know. And then things spiraled. He started taking more. He told me if I didn't sign, we'd lose everything. The house. Owen's school. He said he'd leave if I didn't help. So you save your marriage by throwing your father under the bus. I asked, my voice shaking. No, she said, wiping her eyes. I saved my son. You don't understand. Dean can be scary. He changed. I didn't know how bad it was until it was too late. And then when Dana reached out, I wanted to tell you. I swear I did. Then why didn't you? I asked. Because I was ashamed. That stopped me. She took a shaky breath. I didn't know how to face you. I knew you'd look at me like this. Like I was a stranger. Like I failed you. And I did. I looked at her for a long moment. I don't care about the house, I said, or the money. I care that my own daughter left me sitting at that dinner table, smiling at the man who was stealing my life, and said nothing. I know. I would have given it all to you, Cora, I whispered. If you just asked. I know. Silence stretched between us. I'm working with Dana, she said suddenly. That's why she told you not to call me. I've been helping her get the files. She said if we could get you out, we could flip it all. But we needed time. I studied her face. You're telling the truth? Yes. And we're close. But Dean suspects something. He's watching everything. I'm scared of what he'll do if he finds out you're still in town. I sighed and stepped back. Then don't tell him you saw me. Don't warn him. Let him keep thinking I'm gone. What are you going to do? I looked at her with a calm that surprised even me. I'm going to finish what you started. I've always believed revenge isn't worth chasing. Not when you've got more years behind you than ahead. I've seen what bitterness can do to a man. I've seen it rot people from the inside out. But this wasn't about revenge anymore. This was about restoration, taking back my name, my future, my peace. That night, after speaking with Cora, I walked back to the motel with a strange sense of calm. It was like standing in the eye of a storm. Everything around me was chaos, lies, fraud, betrayal. But inside, I felt steady. Cold, even. Cora's confession broke something in me, but it also gave me clarity. Dean was close to making his final move. I could feel it, and I needed to beat him to the punch. I called Dana from the new burner phone. She picked up on the first ring. Did you talk to her? She asked. Yes. She confirmed it. She signed the loan. Said Dean threatened to leave her, to take Owen, if she didn't help. Dana sighed. She's not the first woman to be manipulated by a man like that. But she's on our side. I believe so. She's been feeding you documents, right? Yeah, slowly, carefully. But what we need now is the hard proof, the transfers, the recorded call, the final move. Well, if I can get him to admit it, I asked. Dana was silent. Then what are you thinking? I told her the plan. Simple, dangerous, but just crazy enough to work. She didn't say no. The next morning, I walked into the bank I'd been using for 20 years. I still remembered most of the employees, though many had changed since I retired. I asked to speak with Patrick Holden, the branch manager. We played softball together back when I still had knees that worked. He shook my hand when I came into his office. Elwood Granger, he smiled. Haven't seen you in a while. What brings you in? I smiled back and said, I need your help exposing a man who's been stealing my identity and laundering money through your bank. The smile dropped from his face like a curtain falling on a bad play. 3 hours later, I left the bank with a wire on my chest. The kind the FBI uses. Dana had pulled strings with an old contact who owed her a favor. We were now in official territory. The bank was cooperating. The call was being monitored. All I had to do was get Dean to confess. I invited him to lunch. Texted him from the prepaid number, pretending to be Cora. Dad wants to meet. Just him. At the diner on Willow. 1 p.m. I waited in the back booth of that old diner with the cracked red leather seats and the smell of burnt toast and grease that never really leaves. A place Dean wouldn't think twice about. I wore a ball cap, pulled low, and a windbreaker zipped up to my neck. Dean walked in at exactly 1:03 p.m. He looked different, sharper, harder. He always used to smile too much, but not today. He looked like a man who'd lost control of something he thought he owned. He slid into the booth across from me and leaned in. Where the hell have you been? Out, I said. You don't just disappear, Elwood. People start asking questions. Like who? The police? The IRS? Your shell company partners? I sipped my coffee. You nervous? His eyes narrowed. You don't know what you're talking about. I reached into my pocket slowly, so he wouldn't panic, and pulled out a folded piece of paper. A copy of the fake property deed in Nevada, with my name on it. Stamped. Notarized. I never signed this, I said. Dean didn't look surprised. Just tired. You don't understand how this works, he said. I didn't do anything illegal. Everything has a paper trail. That's the problem, I said calmly. It's my name on the paper. He smirked. Then maybe you should have paid more attention to your finances. Is that how you sleep at night? I asked, locking eyes with him. You tell yourself the old man was too dumb to notice. No, he said, straightening his posture. I tell myself that what I built is too big to fail. And you were just a convenient stepping stone. I felt the blood in my ears thudding. You used my daughter, my grandson. You let me sit at your table while you stabbed me in the back. Dean chuckled softly. You sound dramatic. If it makes you feel better, I was going to cut you in once the IPO hit. You stole my retirement. Not yet, he said coldly. But after this week, there's nothing left for anyone to find. It'll all be gone, legally. I leaned back and smiled for the first time in days. You just confessed, I said. He blinked. What? Say hi to the wire, I whispered, patting my chest. Say hello to Dana and the federal agents listening outside. Dean's eyes widened for just a second before his whole body tensed. Then he stood up. He looked around the diner, casually, and then slowly backed away from the table. You made a mistake, old man, he said. This won't stick. I stayed seated. We'll see. He left the diner, and 30 seconds later, 2 plainclothes agents followed him out the door. They arrested Dean that evening. Dana called me at the motel just before sunset. Her voice was calm, almost too calm, as if she was still waiting for the other shoe to drop. He didn't resist, she said. Walked right into it. Arrogant men always do. I sat there on the edge of the bed, holding the phone to my ear, staring at nothing in particular. I thought I'd feel triumphant, relieved, vindicated. Instead, I just felt tired. Tired in a way I hadn't felt since Joan died. That bone-deep kind of exhaustion that comes not just from moving your body, but from carrying something heavy in your soul for too long. Dana continued. They've frozen the accounts. Everything's under review now. With the recorded confession and the forged documents from Greta, the feds have what they need. He'll be indicted formally in a few days. And Cora, I asked quietly. She hesitated. That's more complicated. I swallowed hard. Cora came to see me the next day. She didn't call first. She just showed up at the motel, wearing an oversized sweater and sunglasses, her hair pulled back like she was trying not to be recognized. Not by the world. Not even by herself. She knocked, then opened the door slowly. I had left it unlocked. I don't know why. Maybe part of me hoped she'd come. I looked up from the chair in the corner. She closed the door behind her and stood there for a moment, like a child unsure of whether she was welcome in the room. I'm sorry, she said. Her voice cracked like ice. I know, I said. She stepped closer, but didn't sit. Her eyes were puffy, her lips trembling. They came to the house last night. Agents. Owen saw them take Dean away. I stayed silent. I didn't know what to tell him. What do you tell a 12-year-old boy when his father is led away in handcuffs and his grandfather is hiding in a motel with a target on his back? You tell him the truth, I said. You tell him that adults make mistakes and that the brave ones take responsibility for them. She sat on the edge of the bed, her hands twisted in her lap like they were looking for forgiveness on their own. I want to believe I was protecting him, she whispered, but I don't know anymore. Maybe I was just afraid of losing everything. You already lost everything, I said softly. You just didn't realize it yet. She looked up at me, eyes full of tears. I never meant to hurt you. I know, I was stupid. No, I said. You were scared, and scared people do stupid things. She wiped her eyes. They're going to question me. They'll ask what I knew, when I knew it, if I benefited. You did, I said. She flinched. But you also cooperated. You helped Dana. That matters. I could still be charged. I nodded slowly. You could. She let the silence stretch out. I could tell she wanted me to say something comforting, something fatherly, something to lift the weight from her shoulders. But I'd done that her whole life. This time, she had to carry it. I'm not asking you to forgive me, she said finally. I didn't want to disappear from your life without trying. I looked at her, really looked at her, and I saw not the little girl who used to beg me to read her one more story, but a grown woman who had let fear bury her integrity. And now, in the wreckage, was trying to find the pieces. I don't hate you, Cora, I said. She started to cry again. But I don't trust you either. She left not long after. I didn't hug her. She didn't ask me to. And that night, I sat alone again. Me and the hum of the motel air conditioner and the shadows that have been following me since this all began. 2 days later, I got a call from Dana. Dean's not getting out, she said. No bail. Too much flight risk. Prosecutors are moving fast. This one's going to stick. And Cora, cooperation agreement is in the works. She'll likely testify. Might avoid formal charges if she plays her cards right. It's not justice, but it's something. I nodded, even though she couldn't see it. What about you, Elwood? She asked. You're free now. You can go home. I looked around the small room. The beige walls, the peeling wallpaper, the silence that had become too familiar. Home doesn't feel like home anymore. Want some advice? She said. Sure. Leave town. Not forever. Just for a while. Clear your head. Breathe air that doesn't smell like betrayal. Give yourself a chance to figure out what you want, not just what you survived. I exhaled slowly. Maybe I will. That weekend, I packed what little I had and left Marion. I didn't leave a note. Didn't tell Cora. Didn't tell Owen. I just got in a rental car and drove west. No map, no plan, just the hum of the engine and the roads stretching like a promise in front of me. I stopped in a small town called Glenwick, population maybe 2,000. Mountains in the distance. A diner that served real coffee. A bookstore with a broken neon open sign that still glowed at night. I rented a cabin just off the highway. Simple, clean, quiet. And for the first time in months, I slept through the night. Weeks passed. I started writing again. Journaling mostly. I'd always loved words, but life had stolen my time. Now I had nothing but time. I walked every morning, made my own coffee, cooked simple meals, watched the sun rise without the weight of pretending everything was fine. Sometimes I'd think about Cora, about Owen, about what I lost, but also about what I found. Peace, not the loud kind, the quiet, slow-burning kind that creeps into your bones when no one is lying to you. When the house isn't a stage, when your name is your own again. Then one morning in early fall, I received a letter. No return address, just my name, handwritten. Inside was a photo, me and Owen, taken years ago. He was maybe 6, on my shoulders, grinning, and a note. Dad, I don't expect you to write back, but I wanted you to know I left Marion. I filed for divorce. Owen and I are staying with friends in Vermont. He misses you. He asks about you. I tell him you're safe and strong and good, because you are. I don't know if you'll ever want to see me again, but I'll always want to see you. Love, Cora. I held that letter in my hands for a long time. No tears, just something soft in my chest. like a thawing after a long winter. I didn't write back. Not yet, but I folded the photo, put it in my wallet, and the next day, I picked up the phone and booked a flight. Vermont was colder than I remembered. The trees were already shifting into their autumn fire, gold, amber, blood red. The kind of colors that remind you nothing stays the same, no matter how badly you want it to. I arrived in a small town called Maple Hollow. Population quiet, the kind of place where everyone nodded at you, even if they didn't know your name. Cora had written that she and Owen were staying just outside town in a small rental cabin owned by a retired schoolteacher. I hadn't told her I was coming. I didn't know what I was expecting when I knocked. Maybe silence, maybe a slammed door. Instead, it was Owen who answered. His eyes lit up like a candle catching flame. "Grandpa," he launched at me before I could say a word, wrapping his arms around my waist. I staggered back a step, but my arms found their way around him. The boy had grown taller, leaner, but that hug, it was exactly the same. "I missed you," he said, face buried in my chest. My throat tightened. I couldn't speak. I just squeezed him tighter, wondering how I'd gone so long without this. When he finally pulled back, he beamed up at me. "Mom said you might come someday." I didn't think it'd be this soon. I looked over his shoulder. Cora was standing in the doorway, arms folded, eyes wide with disbelief and something else. Hope, maybe, or worry, or both. "I wasn't sure if I should come," I said quietly. She stepped aside. "I'm glad you did." The cabin was small but cozy. 2 bedrooms, a wood-burning stove, a kitchen that smelled like cinnamon and coffee. Owen dragged me to the sofa and started showing me drawings he'd made. Dinosaurs, rockets, superheroes. Each one more colorful than the last. I nodded, smiled, listened. Cora made tea in the kitchen. I could feel her glancing over her shoulder at us, probably wondering when we'd stop pretending everything was normal. After Owen went to his room to finish a school project, she sat beside me on the couch. "I didn't think you'd come," she said. "I almost didn't." "What changed your mind?" "Your letter." She looked down at her tea. "I meant every word." I nodded. "I know." It was a long pause. Then she asked, "Do you hate me?" "No." She looked up sharply. "Really?" I sighed. I was angry. I still am in some ways. But hating you, that would mean I've given up. And I haven't. Not completely. She set her cup down. "I'm trying, Dad. I really am. I started seeing a therapist. Owen's in school again. I got a part-time job at the library. We're not whole, but we're trying." I reached over, gently touched her hand. "That's all I ever wanted, for you to try. To own it. To face it." She blinked away tears. Dean manipulated me. He made me feel like I owed him my silence. Like if I spoke up, I'd lose everything. "You did lose everything," I said quietly. "But maybe that's the point. Maybe what you had wasn't worth keeping." She nodded slowly. "I see that now." There was another pause, softer this time, comfortable. Then she asked, "Can you stay a while? I don't want to be in the way." "You're not. Owen talks about you every night. He doesn't understand everything, but he knows you love him. That's what matters." I thought for a moment. "I'll stay a few days, if that's okay." She smiled, small, grateful, like a wound learning to close. "It's more than okay." The next few days passed gently. I took Owen fishing in a nearby lake. We didn't catch much, but he didn't seem to care. He just wanted to talk about school, space, dinosaurs, and once, carefully, about Dean. "Is he in jail?" he asked one evening by the campfire. I nodded. "Yes." "Did he do something bad?" I chose my words carefully. "He made some choices that hurt people." Sometimes grown-ups make mistakes, even if they think they're doing the right thing. Owen stared into the fire. "Mom said you forgave her." I glanced at him. Something like that. He leaned against me, resting his head on my shoulder. "I think that's cool." It wasn't cool. It was hard. It was complicated. But for now, it was enough. On my last morning there, Cora and I took a walk while Owen was at school. The woods were quiet except for the crunch of our boots and the occasional bird call. "I don't know what happens next," she said, hands deep in her coat pockets. "Neither do I admitted. "But I want you in our lives. However that looks. I want Owen to grow up with you in the picture. He needs you. I need you." I looked at her, really looked at her. The guilt hadn't vanished, but it had softened. She was healing. So was I. "Let's take it one step at a time," I said. "No pretending. No pushing. She nodded. One step at a time. Before I left, Owen handed me a drawing. It was the three of us, him, me, and Cora, standing in front of the cabin. We were smiling, holding hands. Underneath, in big block letters, he'd written, "Family gets lost, but they find their way back." I folded it gently and placed it in my jacket pocket. Sometimes, wisdom doesn't come from the years behind you, but from the love that still believes in you. When I got back to Indiana, the house felt quieter than ever. Not empty, just still, like it was holding its breath. I hadn't returned to the one I shared with Cora and Owen. That place, soaked in too many memories, was long gone. I rented a small 2-bedroom bungalow on the edge of town, close to a park with a duck pond and walking trail. It wasn't fancy, but it was mine. My furniture, my books, my pictures. I hung Owen's drawing on the refrigerator like a prized masterpiece. And slowly, I started over. Each morning, I took a long walk. I cooked simple meals. I read more. I joined a group at the local rec center, just other retirees who met up for coffee, puzzles, and stories they'd already told a dozen times. It was comforting. I wasn't chasing happiness anymore. I was chasing peace. And slowly it came. Then, one morning, a letter came in the mail. It had no return address. Just my name, written in blocky, almost nervous handwriting. I stood at the kitchen counter, holding it, debating. The envelope was thin, the kind that trembles a little in your hand. I opened it. It wasn't long. "Elwood, if you're reading this, then I guess I finally got the guts to send it. I know there's nothing I could say that would fix what I've done, what I let happen, but I need to say something anyway. I was weak, not just with Cora, but with everything. I was jealous of your life, of how much Owen loved you, of how you carried yourself. When things fell apart, I should have stepped up. Instead, I let you take the fall. I was afraid, ashamed, but the truth is, I was never the man you were. Prison gives you a lot of time to think. I've got nothing left but thoughts now. I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted you to know I was wrong. And I'm sorry. Dean." I stared at the letter for a long while. I'd imagined this moment, foolishly, many times. Dean admitting his sins, begging forgiveness. But now, reading his words, I felt no pleasure, just quiet. There was something sad about it. Not satisfying, not triumphant, just hollow. Dean had burned every bridge, including his own. And now, sitting in a prison cell somewhere, he was trying to send smoke signals across the ashes. And I wasn't angry anymore. Not really. I folded the letter and tucked it into a drawer, not out of reverence, but as a reminder, some ghosts don't need banishing. They just need burying. Cora called a few days later. "Guess what?" she said, voice light for once. "What?" "I got a full-time job at the library. Benefits, too." Owen's thrilled. He thinks it means free books for life. I chuckled. "That's great, sweetheart. I'm proud of you." There was a pause. "You call me sweetheart." "I did, didn't I?" Another pause. Then, "You'll come visit again soon?" "Of course." I could hear Owen in the background, yelling something about a science project and a volcano. "Tell him I'll bring baking soda and vinegar next time," I said. "I will." Before she hung up, Cora said, "Dad, thank you for not giving up on me." I didn't say anything at first. Then I whispered, "We only get one family, Cora. Even if we lose our way, we try to find it again. That's what love is." A month later, I hosted them. Owen helped me decorate the guest room with superhero posters. Cora brought homemade bread, and we played cards at the kitchen table until late. We didn't talk about the past that night. We didn't need to. It was all there, in the quiet laughter, the way Cora refilled my coffee without asking, the way Owen leaned his head on my shoulder during the movie. That's how healing begins. Not with a bang, but with a soft, steady rhythm of new moments. One evening, sitting on my porch alone, I watched the sun dip behind the maple trees. The breeze was warm. The sky was watercolor pink. I thought of my younger self, working long hours, breaking my back to build something I thought would never fall apart. I thought of the man who had once knocked on my door asking for my daughter's hand, and the bitter taste of betrayal that came later. But I also thought of my grandson's laugh, of my daughter's quiet strength returning, of my own heart, once shattered, now slowly, carefully whole. And I knew something for sure. They thought they'd broken me, but they didn't realize. You can't break a man who's already learned to rebuild.